We welcome you today to the Metropolitan Community Church of Washington, D.C. Spiritual Engagement Hour. This is a time where we can converse together and share dialogue. It's an opportunity for us to learn from each other and to grow together. If it's your first time to be with us here at MCCDC on-site, online, or on demand, we welcome you. This is our 9 a.m. Eastern Time spiritual engagement hour. So whatever time zone you might be in, you're in the right time zone. And whenever you discover us, perhaps on demand, you have found us at the right time. And we are so grateful today again for your love and for your presence today with us. If it is your first time, my name is Dwayne, the senior pastor, and my email is raddwayne@mccdc.com. And I always love learning about you through your emails. I also bring you greetings today from our associate pastor, Reverend Kathy Alexander. She's involved in a simultaneous event today, our 9 a.m. Eastern Time music engagement hour in preparation for our 10:30 a.m. worship service. And we are again so glad that you are present with us today. Our theme today is practice wisdom. Our theme today is one that is helping to prepare us for much that is ahead of us during this season and during this time. We live in a day that calls for wisdom, and it seems that wisdom oftentimes is in short supply. We seek leadership and we seek the presence of the Spirit. So as we prepare ourselves today, let's just take a moment to get centered in our body and our mind and our spirit. Welcome, welcome. Thank you. Welcome, welcome. Just take a deep breath, receive a deep breath. We don't have to take it, we can just receive it. And we talk about being present in body, mind, and spirit. So for just a moment now, notice what's going on in your body. Our God is a God of the body and the mind and the spirit. And perhaps there's some places of tension or stress that have a message for you today. Maybe there's some places in your body that are calling for attention. Our body is a source of wisdom. When we listen to our body, it oftentimes has something to share with us. We light this candle. Remind us of that inner place, that strong place, that place of life. Breathing in God's love, releasing that love. Taking it slow, slow. In a world that often screams, sometimes we need slow. There is wisdom in slow. Breathing in slow. And then we release healing. Slow. Heal. Slow. Heal. One of the slogans that's been used on Facebook is move fast and break things. Our invitation today is to move slow and heal things. It's part of the wisdom of Stephen Lawson. Move slow and heal things. Thank you. Amen. I want to say welcome. My name is Dwayne.
My name's Dustin.
Dustin, how did you find out about us?
Through the Google search engine.
Wonderful. Well, Dustin, we welcome you, and we're so grateful that you are here with us today. And we'll go ahead and introduce ourselves around the room if you're comfortable. My name is Dwayne, senior pastor.
I'm Dr. Carlo.
Doing many, many, many things.
I'm Joanne.
Joanne's our new intern with us. And
I'm Kathy.
yeah,
Happy Kathy.
supporting us today with both technology and spirit. Kathy always has wonderful things to add. Oftentimes, we find our greatest presence during this time is actually on demand. I'm not sure if we have someone with us online today. We've had folks online from Detroit, New Jersey, UK, Canada. And so today, for now, it may be us in the room. Today's approach is a little bit more devotional. Sometimes we talk about issues that can be very, very challenging. And today we do want to talk about this idea of wisdom. And in recent weeks, we've talked about the wisdom of knowing when to speak and when not to speak. We would remind that we're being recorded. Are you okay being recorded?
Of course.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you, Dr. Carla, for that reminder. We always want to honor people's boundaries, even as we seek to engage as a community. And so we'd like to begin, we've been talking about wisdom. Sometimes we need the wisdom to know when to speak and when to be quiet. And Audre Lorde is one who has invited us into that conversation. We've approached it in different ways. We need wisdom with the upcoming election. We need wisdom to know how to take care of ourselves with all that we're facing these days. And so I offer this quote for us to reflect on devotionally. And it's a quote by Wendy Wright, who says, "Is this the time to seek wisdom in a new way, to let go, to wander deeper and farther into uncharted territory?" So this quote is a question, and I'd love to hear any promptings or responses. Is this the time to seek wisdom in a new way, to let go, to wander deeper and farther into uncharted territory? Felt like there was a lot in that question that speaks to this wisdom pilgrimage that we're on.
So are we supposed to engage with this?
Yeah, so this is just an opportunity. Church is oftentimes somebody lecturing or preaching, and we have some of that, but we want to provide an opportunity where we can actually show up and have a conversation.
Well, sure. The human animal based on instinct, genetically, is opposed to anything new.
Mm,
So when you embrace the new mentally, you're mentally opening your exploration that normally you would not find comfortable. So essentially, you're preparing yourself for space engagement for new thought and idea.
And so we're wired. So in a sense, what I'm hearing from you is that this question, this quote from Wendy Wright, sort of challenges how we're wired.
Essentially,
All right.
from this interpretation, perhaps.
Okay, excellent. And we welcome all interpretations. We oftentimes, one of the things we talk about is a community value is agreeable disagreement. I happen to agree with you on that.
I agree also.
Appreciate the insight. So other thoughts?
I think that it is good to seek wisdom in a different way. But it depends on where you're seeking wisdom
Okay,
from,
all right.
the source of where you're seeking your wisdom, your guidance from. Which I think that there's a place for many avenues or sources for gaining wisdom from. But we have to be knowledgeable and discern whether where we're seeking the wisdom from is not going to be harmful.
Okay. All right.
Or, cause damage or harm
Okay.
to yourself or others.
I have a follow-up question on And I want to welcome Jerry Ayers, I think, Southwestern Virginia. And we'll edit that part so that our on-demand folks can move through with us in terms of flow. So just with that, let's take a breath. Sometimes that can be a little decentering and return to the body. I had some tension show up in my upper shoulder from that. So we'll just take a breath and know that our bodies are with us. All right, Dr. Carla, I think you're getting ready to share.
No, I was thinking that sources of wisdom and what wisdom is and what is perceived as wisdom and what is perceived as wisdom that has been used as a weapon. You know, I mean, churches are an example that comes up immediately, and that certainly is an ongoing issue around, you know, okay, so you know, this is wisdom, and I get to harm people with this thing that I'm saying is wisdom. And so, you know, again, and that has to do with who gets to sometimes, you know, who gets to live and who gets to be disappeared and who gets to be erased and who gets to be present and all of that. So I mean, that has been over time, and certainly in Christianity, has been used as long as that has existed. Has been taken, I would say the message of love has been taken and shifted, and as a source of wisdom, saying it's wisdom, been weaponized.
Yeah,
And so I think it's a really important point around what does it mean, what's wisdom,
Yes.
you know, and how that's been weaponized. I mean, it's an ongoing thing that is so important about this community is that. Yeah.
yes. And it still have, I mean, I immediately, as you were sharing, I went back to the Crusades and all that, you know, I'm thinking of Tyndale, Bible translator who was burned at the stake. His real desire was to share wisdom and ended up, you know, getting burned for trying to share wisdom. Wisdom's been used as a control. Bible has been used to control people going way back, and it's still happening. It's still happening in so many ways.
Was that part of the constriction of religious study? That this person was sharing knowledge that was viewed to not be shared for those who are on the lower caste, if you will.
Yep. Yeah, knowledge is power and wisdom is power. And so those sometimes who are in places of power try to control access to wisdom. And Tyndale was one of the ones who died because of it, being burned, you know, burned alive.
And the flip side of that is the way that has been utilized to actually lift up and support and actually create change that has been supportive of actually peace and love and justice.
Yeah. Thank you.
I think I may have gone over the top of you, Kathy.
Yeah, come on in.
No,
And Richard, we welcome you. We are recording, and so just be mindful of that. If you wish to put your camera on, it is being recorded, but we do welcome you today as well, as we are both on site, online, and later on demand. Kathy.
I was just trying to fit my definition of wisdom into the discussion, and to me, wisdom is common sense. And so how do you learn common sense? I can only say through experience. So people have different experiences. If the wisdom comes from their experiences, and they've always experienced the negative side of Christianity, then that's where their common sense lies. And I think common sense comes from experience. So if you're taught. And a lot of these people from childhood have been taught a certain thing. Then when they step out in the world, when they get out of their comfort zone, it's a whole new ballgame, but they still have this wisdom or this common sense that they learned. So do you unlearn it? I think only new experiences would help you learn a different side of wisdom.
We can explore federal families and separation of LGBT children historically. My stepfather is FBI, and I was separated from my family when I was a child, not granted federal benefits, and I endured child sexual trafficking. I recently went home for a visit after several years and placing myself through education under hostile anti-LGBT conditions. And I learned, if you will, after following that path home, if you will, that my father stated I can no longer come home once again. So not only was I denied federal benefits through my stepfather, I endured child sexual trafficking. I could not read at the age of 18. I placed myself through college under hostile conditions. And after my first visit home after so many years, this just recently happened, I learned I could not come home for Thanksgiving. I cannot engage with my family. And once again, I'm alone. So the wisdom I've gathered is not conventional. During my education majoring in LGBT studies, I utilized unconventional sources of wisdom, and some of the information and some of the wisdom that I was exposed to, I may not personally agree with, but from the sources which they originated, it was wisdom to them, which enriched my understanding. So at this point, I look at wisdom as not good nor bad, but an enrichment of self. I may not have to agree with the wisdom, but it is enrichment from my perspective.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your openness. We can learn from you and from each other. I noticed the phrase unconventional wisdom.
Unconventional.
I'd love to hear some thoughts on some examples of unconventional wisdom. There's that common sense practical wisdom. I immediately thought of my grandmother, who never even went to grade school, but was one of the wisest persons I've ever met, even to this day. Unconventional wisdom. What would be some thoughts about unconventional wisdom? What that might be?
I think unconventional wisdom is MCCDC. It's unconventional wisdom, whereas traditional theologies, some traditional theologies do not work out of love, but work out of hate. May not look at the Bible in the time it was written, but do this overarching thing because that's what they've been taught. Again, what people have been taught, they don't veer from that. They may, like some of my family members, they may see me, they know who I am, they know what I do, but they're clouded by that traditional wisdom that says, we can't accept you, no matter what we see you do, how we see you act, but we still can't accept you because of that traditional wisdom of old, or their interpretation thereof.
Okay.
So unconventional would be MCCDC and relatives that said, you're a good person, hey, you are who you are, whatever, let's go. So that would be unconventional to me.
Okay. Other sources of wisdom that could be overlooked or considered unconventional. So thank you, Kathy. I do hope that MCCDC is a place of unconventional wisdom. I know we take an unconventional approach to what it means to be church. Many churches on your first Sunday, you're basically given a list. Be it beliefs, be it this is what you need to do, quote unquote, to get to heaven. That sometimes is the language. This is what you have to do to be in, to be out. There's not too many churches who in their opening statement talk about community and say this is a place where we welcome disagreement. And
And then they operate in clickism. If you've been there forever and these little cliques,
Sure.
form in this little clique over here. And when new people come in, it takes forever to bust through the clickism, to be accepted, even without having an LGBTQ IA plus
yeah,
label. It's still difficult going into traditional churches,
yeah,
some traditional churches.
yes. So a list is a lot easier. I tell you, that's an easier way to do church. I also think it's destructive. So other thoughts on unconventional wisdom?
I'll just share a labeling theory with a bridge to clickism. You are labeled as a certain group. That's your identity, that's who you are. So the idea of new or unconventional wisdom or opening your mind or thoughts when it comes to congregations, that is pretty prevalent. I'm reaffirming.
Yeah. Thank you. I would offer that there is some wisdom that at one time was conventional and has now become unconventional. And the example that I would offer, I think Dr. Robin, I can't put words in his mouth, he's not here, so I'll not do that. However, one of the things that one of our theologians in residence has taught me is to look at the wisdom of our siblings, our creation siblings. The wisdom of trees, the wisdom of our neighbors. And I think actually, if you look at ancient scriptures, not only in the Judeo-Christian tradition, but in other traditions as well, there's incredible wisdom in earth and in nature. And I think part of what I'm learning from Dr. Robin is to begin to seek wisdom from these siblings. Yes, Jerry, come on in. Come on in there from Southwest Virginia. We're having a little trouble coming through. All right. Well, we'll have you, as soon as we get this settled out, we'll invite you back in. So glad you're with us today. And
When you're talking about, when I first started gardening, it was with a woman who lived in Fort Washington, Maryland. My windshield wipers quit working. She invited me to come to her home until the rain stopped, so I wouldn't get an accident. And she started talking about her grandmother's garden, and it was all overgrown. So I said, let me do some gardening, and that's when I started gardening. Her garden was named Revelation Garden, and my garden is Revelation 2. But we would have all this revelation while we were gardening, a seed, a little itty bitty little seed to grow into this big thing.
yeah.
One little corn seed in the ground produces all these ears of corn on the stalk. And so if that's the wisdom, then I can see how planting a little seed of destruction or violence can grow.
Yeah.
but also planting a seed of love can grow. So what overpowers what?
Mm,
So there is wisdom in the earth.
Thank you. Revelation Garden. Love that term phrase. Dr. Carlo.
No, I think what's coming to me is something about voices or perspectives that are silenced, and what's the wisdom there?
Mhm.
And I want to be careful because I think for one thing, this can be really very culturally influenced. Wisdom is culturally connected. And so it's just super it dwells in culture. And so because what is wisdom culturally in one place is very different someplace else. And there is this thing about what is acknowledged as wisdom. It has a lot, again, whatever is center is gonna be acknowledged and get a lot more traction and have a lot more power. If it's centered, and voices and perspectives that are silenced, that wisdom is going to get pushed down and not paid attention to, and again, pushed away. And so that's what's really coming to me about wisdom, and that's what I'm going through and thinking about as I participate. Yeah.
Thank you.
I would say maybe also, our ancestors.
Like that,
Yeah.
like that, because I was thinking, no, I
When you
didn't
said-
stop you, because
When you
I'm thinking
said that,
about my
that's what popped in my
ancestors. That's what
head
I'm
was
thinking.
our
That's right.
ancestors.
It's my grandma, it's my
Ancestors.
grandma, and it's my great grand, it's like, and why?
Mhm.
Because of power and what it has meant to even get access to any of that
Yes,
wisdom.
Yes.
And how that wisdom has been passed,
right.
how it was passed to my parents, and how it was, and did they know where it came from, and how that it was passed to my son,
Yes.
so I don't mean to stop.
No,
Thank you.
no, yeah.
Because that was
first
it,
thing I
it's like
thought
you
about-
read my mind.
Yes,
So I was
yes,
like, that-
right
that's
there.
what I was talking about.
Yes.
Yeah.
And hearing the voices of our ancestors
Mhm.
in the various ways that, that you gain that, you get that, silent wisdom, because they're not there with you on the physical, realm, but or the spiritual wisdom that you get
Mhm.
from hearing the voices of your ancestors.
So the metaphysical self or the consciousness outside of the body, you still feel that wisdom?
I would agree with that, yeah.
I was thinking, the wisdom of cures that did not require doctors.
Exactly.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
The white of the egg and lemon juice was given for sore throat. And for years, I said, why does that work? And then I realized that the white of the egg is frothy. So it's gonna lay on your throat. The lemon juice is gonna lay on your throat.
Mhm.
If you just drink straight lemon juice, it just goes down. But this allows it to go. The alimentary system on the way down. I says, that was wise.
Yeah.
Well, it speaks to, I think for me, is one of the things that happens when folks think, well, if you start talking about whose perspective got silenced, well, that was all about whether they got silenced, and it's just about them. And actually, what it's about is everybody, because it's the information, for instance, it's the information that wasn't accessed by anybody because of however power kept particular information away from everybody. So everybody loses access to the brilliance that we all bring, and that includes our more than human
Mhm.
siblings as well. So we don't get access, And so it's not one dimensional, it really is everybody.
Yes.
The information has been silenced because of it being pushed down. I so often think, so what did we all miss? What did we all not have access to? From the love and care we didn't get, to the medication, to the, would we be, out farther in space? Where would we be? Would the earth not be so harmed?
I don't know if anyone remembers when, whatever the CVS was before it was a CVS, I don't recall. what it was. Peoples. They used to sell tinctures. And my grandmother would send us to store, get, tincture of spearmint, tincture of peppermint. And she'd put a couple of drops in, and that would take care of the aching stomach and stuff like that. But then they took all that stuff away,
Yeah, yeah,
and all that was lost.
yes.
Because now I'm going to the drugstore looking for this thing that my grandmother used to use for an upset stomach, and it's no longer there.
Mhm.
And also, I think it was called carbonated Vaseline.
Mm-hmm. It was like that medicated,
The medical
yeah, I
Vaseline.
remember that.
And I went to someplace in Bethesda, there's an apothecary there that has the carbonated Vaseline, which is now called medicated Vaseline.
Yeah.
You slap Vaseline on a splinter,
Yes,
just put Vaseline on it overnight, the splinter will come out.
wow,
You know, it's like stuff like that, that was wise.
yeah. And yet it probably was not profitable.
Oh, no, because
I'm
they're gonna sell
speculating.
Luden's, cough drops,
Yeah.
Luden's.
Yeah, I'm just speculating why that ended up not being on the shelves, and probably it has something to do with Empire.
Yeah, sure. But it's gonna make money, yeah.
You think the AMA wants that?
Yeah, yeah. Well, this is, so I want to offer another potential source of what was once conventional wisdom that's now become more unconventional, which is dreams. The wisdom of dreams, dream work. And just see if you have some thoughts on that. Again, looking at the many ancient witnesses, many ancient stories, both in the Judeo-Christian tradition as well as in various Celtic earth variety of traditions from many cultural perspectives. Dreams were at that time considered, in many cases, perhaps the highest form of wisdom even. And we see that in many of the stories, and we also see it in the New Testament, and again in many of your ancient traditions. Some of your thoughts on dreams as a source of wisdom.
Okay, biologically, it's theorized that dreams help the brain reconstruct and make sense of the world around you. Now, if a dream is artificially influenced, say by medication, which changes the chemical pathways in the way they fire in your brain, etc., then that natural biological process is altered. So with an altered state of consciousness, is that still wisdom if it's not naturally occurring? Or are you achieving a higher state of consciousness? I believe that's perspective.
Yeah, interesting.
I mean, people use different ways to interpret dreams, now in as in order to, to gain wisdom, and or understanding of a particular situation, interpreted through, say, a prophetic gift, Um. Yeah, they have dream books, you know, that people have written about
Sure.
what
Yeah.
things mean, but but I know that's like a big thing about the interpretation of dreams and what dreams mean, and yeah, I think that in the right hands, when the person is giving you interpretation in the right hands, that it can be good, I guess, or but you have to be careful that you're not being influenced by say sources that are trying to uh,
Manipulate.
thank you, that's the word, manipulate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so but I think in that maybe that the first source of interpretation, I think would be to ask God for the interpretation of this dream or, and then, yeah, people then go seek, other sources, like I said, for, people that are, prophets, have that prophetic gift, but, yeah, but I think that you have to just be careful, like I said there again, as to who's doing, whose interpretation really is it that you're getting,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
I think the Bible speaks to that and says, that's
Mhm.
that person,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah. Be wise about wisdom.
Yeah.
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 Thank you. Rich. Meaningful, very meaningful.
But I think what I'm hearing is what comes up, and there are quote secular ways to think about dreams, and there are the religious, spiritual ways,
Yes.
and they're I don't know that it may always be so simple to pull those apart for the individual. But there are these, and I think they've been mushed together.
Mhm.
As soon as you get the word spiritual, then you can get a lot of mushing, and there's the neurological. And so there's so much about dreams that just go through the society as content. There's so much, and a location for that is the religious location as well. And in the counseling psychotherapy biz, dreams, people talk about dreams, people have dreams, it's like, oh, I had dreams. And so that comes up. And so, humans dream and your dreams have to do with health.
Mhm.
And so, it's an ongoing part of being human, and I think for other beings as well.
Mhm.
We just don't know as much because of what communication we get from other beings.
Yes.
And some of that, there's stuff going on about finding out more from other beings about dream states.
Yes.
So, or what we call dream states as humans. And so I think there's just so much about it. I also think that, the manipulation, I also think there is danger in people being, people can be diagnosed around some things depending on how they talk about their dreams.
Mhm. Mhm.
And, there can be concerns around dreams. I mean, dreams is just so loaded up. And I want to say that there also is an aspect of dreams that are about wisdom of the ancestors that, um, that, again, I would go back to culture because I was raised Christian. And there are things about culture and spirituality that are more ancestral that say you pay attention to dreams around how you live your life every day and what shows up in your dreams, and you get curious about it at least and wonder.
Mhm.
So I just think there's so much. And
Yeah.
what I want to say is what I've learned to do is pray, is to meditate and contemplate and pray
Mhm.
around dreams.
Yeah.
And with a lot of gratitude that to try to calm and be present and pray and have gratitude that my brain dreamed that I dreamed.
Mhm.
I've been in places of illness where I at least could not remember being able to dream.
Mhm.
And so there are things there's just so much about dreaming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would maybe add, when we speak of diagnosis, there is an artificial influence influencing the way the neural pathways interact. When you're conveying that, the diagnosis is most likely, unless you go to a very, very good doctor, not omit, or it's going to be omitted, that there was this medication or other influence, and this person actually, if that influence is removed, would not be diagnosed with schizophrenia, would not have these symptoms as a reaction to a outside source influencing the neural pathways. So is this person truly mentally ill? Or are we going to blame the person for experiencing the symptoms of mental illness, which can manifest in one way through dreams? Which brings me back to dreams, or the dream state is a natural process the brain utilizes to make sense of the world around us. The brain is a mixture, I'm sure you're aware, of chemicals and hormones, etc., that processes our daily experiences. And if we're unable to naturally dream to allow our body and our mind to sink and heal, if there's an outside influence, say medication or what have you, that would influence the neural pathways, how will that affect our mental health? And if that is removed, would we be truly diagnosed with these conditions? That's fascinating. I appreciate you brought that up.
That reminds me of the way people speak, what they say out of their mouth. And with my relatives will say, I have arthritis or diabetes, or I said, no, you don't have, that's your diagnosis. You know, so even speaking, I think, affects the neurons and says, oh, you have it? Okay, so let me give it to you, you know? But the brain is complicated. The brain is so complicated. And so much studying is happening now concerning the brain and new things they're finding about the brain, and it's deep.
It goes back to truth, sense conveyed into words. Now, those words, is that sentence truth? The sense that your brain produced, that may be truth from your understanding, but is it truth once it's spoken? The way you're speaking about conveying the thought that you have from your understanding, the thought may be truth, but the way you convey it, is it still considered truth?
Yeah, and it's like I would say, they diagnosed, but God.
And I want to say that again, because we're talking about the medical world, there's all the stuff around the inequities and what happens in medicine and what happens depending on the body you're in around how you get treated and who listens to you and who does not listen to you and who gets listened to and who does not get listened to has such tremendous impact on literally who lives and dies. And so, I mean, that's just huge. And so this business of, this business of a script before I go to the doctor about what I want to say and who goes with me and those kinds of things. I just, whether it's mental health or physical health or whatever it is, what does it mean to interface with those institutions in order to be able to navigate what we're talking about? It's huge.
I remember back when I was living in Arkansas and I was advocating for the destitute. And I would go to doctor's visits with people and the doctor would talk to me. I said, I'm the patient, sir. You talk to her. And you talk to her in language that she will understand what you're saying. And I'm gonna sit here and make sure that happens. You know?
Yes.
But what happens to those people when nobody rolls with them? I mean, back in the day, they were performing hysterectomies on Black women to stop them from having more children. And no one talked about it because they didn't have the knowledge. Knowledge is powerful.
Yeah.
They didn't have the wisdom or the knowledge to be able to advocate for themselves.
That took place in Puerto Rico also, mass sterilization of Puerto Rican women.
Well, as always, this time is so full. And I appreciate each of you sharing so many different perspectives on this spiritual exploration. As always, there's a lot more to explore on topics that always get raised. I would like us to take a moment to revisit our bodies. And I would like today to just have a devotional closing. And kind of just touch back in with your body. And I'll close today with Psalm 1, which is a psalm about wisdom. And this is Nan Merrill's interpretation or paraphrase of Psalm 1 from a wonderful book that's been called heretical by some, Psalms for Praying and Invitation to Wholeness. Blessed are those who live hand in hand with goodness, who live beside goodness, who reside in the seat of truth. For their delight is in the spirit of love, and in love's heart they dwell night and day. They are like trees planted by streams of water. They yield fruit in due season, and their leaves flourish. And in all they do, they give life. The unloving are not so. They are like dandelions, which the wind blows away. Turning from the heart of love, they will know suffering and pain. They will be isolated from wisdom. For love knows the way of truth, and the way of the unwise will perish. As love's penetrating light breaks through hearts filled with illusions. Forgiveness is the way. Nan Merrill, Psalm 1. Go now today knowing that God loves you, that you are cherished and treasured. May you be nourished, and may you offer nourishment. Amen, and so it is. Amen.